My wife said that she had noticed a clicking or a clunking sound in the steering wheel on her Honda Civic when she went around a corner. And I wanted to check and see if it was something that I could fix rather than take it into the Honda dealer. I don't know about the Honda dealer in your neighborhood, but every time I show up there with some sort of a problem to diagnose, they want at least a couple of $100 just to look at it. So I thought I'd take a look at it. I looked underneath of the steering column and felt all of the steering column components. They were all tight and didn't seem to have a problem. There was no problem in the front end steering. I checked the ball joints and the whole front end, and there was just nothing there that was loose. So I guessed that it was probably in the steering wheel itself. So I went ahead and took off the steering wheel cover, and following, you'll find all of the things that I discovered in there. The fix for what we had was an easy fix, and in no way was worth taking to the dealership, although it seems like a dangerous thing that the steering wheel could come loose like that. So anyway, I hope this video helps you. And the first thing you want to do is take off the negative terminal of your battery and let it sit for about 30 minutes to let the whole system electric discharge. The problem with the steering wheel is that it includes the driver's side airbag, and you don't want that thing to remain with a little charge, and maybe you pull some wrong wire or something in there and pop the airbag in your face. It's a good chance to clean the battery terminals and make sure everything's nice and squeaky clean on those guys too while you got it apart. Right here in the side of your steering wheel, there's on the left side and also on the right side, there's a spot here that has just a littlest opening to stick a Torx bit into, and that screw that's in there it's not in real tight. You know, just give it a break and then you can loosen it up with the extension and the Torx bit. But you need to do that on both sides to release the steering wheel cover. And it doesn't hold the steering wheel on at all. All it does is hold on the cover. Right. So this, one thing I did find is that it's handy to have a little magnet on a stick or something to pull that screw out of there, because there's a little bit of an opening there, and it looks like it'd be real easy for it to fall down inside. This is a bit I use. It's a Torx bit. Use them a lot in cars these days for a lot of different fasteners where they want to make it hard to get off. And I bought a set of these at Harbor Freight, real cheap. It's one of those things where I said, "Oh, I'm gonna pick that up. Might need it someday." And I ends up it's one of the bits that I use an awful lot. I use a T30 size, and you could buy a whole set of these pretty cheap. And thinking back, I probably would have been happier if I went and bought a real nice set of Craftsman ones or something. But these haven't ever failed me, and I use them all the time. And let me zoom a little bit up here so you can see that screw a little bit better. And there it is. So just remembering that this screw, all it does is hold on a plastic cover, so it's not hard to get off, and it's not going to require a giant amount of torque to put it back on when you get ready to reassemble. Once you get the those Torx screws out of there, and the rest of the front will pop off this thing fairly easily. Just kind of grab it by the top and wiggle it out. And there's the bolt that came loose on ours. And be careful of the airbag plug-in stuff, because that stuff will pull loose. And then when you reassemble this thing, basically it just go right back in. There's like a little, you can feel it's gonna kind of clip snap. I do want to point out that once you get the steering wheel, let's call it the cover, off of the steering wheel, you want to be real careful, because that thing there with the wires going through it, that's your airbag, and obviously you don't want to pop that. So I tried to make sure that the airbag wasn't hanging on any wires or anything, and obviously also that's why we unhooked the battery cables and let this thing discharge for 30 minutes. And that may be overkill, but and just in case you get those wires pulled out, that there's a little clip right kind of at the very bottom of that cavity underneath the steering wheel where the plug-in goes for things like your horn and your airbags. So you just gotta kind of feed it back under that clip and it holds just fine. But see, just like that. It's just good to support it a little bit and try to keep those things from falling out in the first place. You have plenty of room to work in there if you use just a ratchet and an extension. Once we get inside the steering column, I found that this bolt right here that holds on the steering wheel had somehow wiggled on loose. Now that your steering wheel sits on a spline shaft, so that it kind of pushes down on there, and I found that ours was loose enough that it had kind of slipped back off of the spline shaft. Okay, so now you want to tighten this guy down to 36 foot-pounds, and I do recommend using a torque wrench for this, because you know that's your steering wheel. That's pretty important stuff. So you can see how loose that thing was, and I can feel it kind of pushing down onto the pushing the steering wheel down under the splines shaft. And I'm doing this one hand on the camera and one hand on the torque wrench, which is less than ideal. And I was going to use a tripod, but the tripod broke, so here we go. Alright, I can feel it tightening up now. Okay, so now we're going to do 36 foot-pounds. Okay, there it goes. It clicked in at 36 foot-pounds, and yeah, good and tight. So, alrighty. So now we just have to reassemble it, and reassembly is the reverse of the disassembly, as in most things. So the steering wheel's all fixed. It's nice and tight. It wasn't a difficult job at all, and I think it's something that I would not be afraid to pull that cover off the steering wheel in the future. If you're unsure at all about how to do this job, I definitely recommend that you take it to the dealer, no matter what the cost, because it is a safety issue. Once you are complete in putting the steering wheel back together, getting the cover on nice and tight, then it's time to reconnect the battery cables and put the car back together and get it ready to drive. One thing I did need to do before I finished up the job was to reset the stereo security code. There's in our owner's manual, there's a little 4-digit code you need to plug in. So I had to reset the stereo code and to reset the clock, because my wife likes the clock. Anyway, hope this helps, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.